The financial records just dropped. The behind-the-scenes whispers are getting louder, and Kody and Robyn Brown's picture-perfect monogamous marriage, it's cracking wide open. We're not talking about minor disagreements over whose turn it is to unload the dishwasher. We're talking about fundamental fractures that have Mykelti Brown Padron, Kody's daughter with Christine, sounding the alarm on her Patreon. And what she's revealing isn't just juicy gossip for the cameras. It's the anatomy of a marriage buckling under the weight of two people who want completely opposite things and refuse to budge an inch. Let's get straight to it. Mykelti didn't mince words when she broke down what's really happening behind the scenes of Sister Wives. This isn't manufactured drama for ratings, though Lord knows they're milking it for content. There's genuine fragility in this marriage, real tension, the kind that keeps therapists in business and divorce attorneys on speed dial. Kody wants monogamy. Done. Finished. He's declared himself retired from the polygamy game. Meanwhile, Robyn still clings to the idea of plural marriage like it's her golden ticket to heaven. Two people, two completely different visions. Zero willingness to compromise. Here's where it gets messier than a toddler's first attempt at spaghetti. According to Mykelti, this isn't just about theological differences or lifestyle preferences. This is about control. Kody demands obedience from Robyn, not partnership, not mutual respect. Obedience. He's continually forcing her to bend to his will, to concede on the polygamy front, because in his world, that's what wives do. They fall in line or they fall out of favor. And if there's one thing we've learned from watching this family implode over the past few seasons, it's that Kody's affection comes with strings attached. You either dance to his tune or you sit alone wondering why the music stopped. But here's the twist that makes this whole situation absolutely fascinating. Neither Mykelti nor her husband Tony can definitively say whether Kody and Robyn are truly done with polygamy. Tony's not convinced they've closed that door. Mykelti sees the writing on the wall but acknowledges the conversation keeps resurfacing. Why? Because it's not resolved. It can't be resolved when one person's spiritual identity depends on living plural marriage and the other person would rather chew glass than share his wife again. That's not compromise territory, that's collision course territory. So here we stand, watching a marriage that was supposed to be the fairy tale ending, the loyal wife who stuck around, the husband who finally got to focus on one relationship, revealing itself to be something far more complicated and far more fragile than anyone anticipated. Let's talk about what obedience actually looks like in Kody Brown's world, because it's not the kind of partnership most women over 45 would tolerate for half a second. We're talking about a man who openly admitted he doesn't value love the way he values respect. And for Kody, respect doesn't mean mutual admiration or healthy boundaries. Respect means obedience. It means falling in line with whatever he decides, whenever he decides it, no questions asked. If you've ever balanced a household budget while someone else made unilateral financial decisions, you know exactly how infuriating that dynamic feels. Christine Brown laid this out plainly in her book. To get anything from Kody, you have to bend to whatever he wants. Unless you do everything he demands, you're in trouble. You're on the outs. You're getting the cold shoulder treatment while he redirects his attention somewhere more compliant. And Robyn, despite being the supposed favorite, the chosen one, the wife who stuck around when everyone else pieced out, she's not exempt from this system. Mykelti made it crystal clear. Robyn has to cater to whatever Kody wants to get her needs met. She walks on eggshells. She manipulates situations to get her way, because direct confrontation results in punishment. He'll pull his affection like a rug out from under her feet if she dares disobey. Now here's where the power dynamics get really interesting. Kody used to have leverage, real leverage. When things got tense with Robyn, he could threaten to redirect his time and attention to Janelle or Christine or Mara. He could dangle the other wives like a carrot and a stick simultaneously. But that leverage evaporated the moment those relationships ended. He's got nothing left in his arsenal except the nuclear option, leaving Robyn entirely or threatening to cheat without bringing in a proper sister wife. And that's a drastically weaker position than the one he occupied when he had a whole stable of wives to rotate through. The problem for Robyn is that she can't push back too hard without risking everything. If she insists on polygamy, if she draws a line in the sand and says this is non-negotiable, Mykelti believes Kody would walk away, just done, finished. Because to him, her insistence would be the ultimate act of disobedience. She'd be refusing to respect his clearly stated boundary. And Kody has proven repeatedly that he'll discard relationships that don't center his needs and his ego. He'll rewrite history, blame the woman for the failure, and move on without looking back. So Robyn's trapped in this bizarre dance. She wants polygamy. He demands monogamy. She can't push too hard or she loses everything. He knows it, and he's using that knowledge to bend her will until it breaks. Here's where things get genuinely perplexing. Robyn Brown grew up watching polygamy fail spectacularly, right in front of her face. Her mother and her mother's sister wife, they didn't get along at all. Mykelti compared their relationship to the dynamic between her own mother Christine and Robyn, where they occasionally managed civility for the sake of family functions, but genuine affection was non-existent. Robyn witnessed firsthand that sister wives often can't stand each other. She lived the jealousy, the competition, the awkward family gatherings where everyone pretends things are fine when they're absolutely not fine. And yet, despite growing up in a failed polygamous household, despite admitting she struggled with jealousy and sharing Kody, despite being controlling and manipulative to maintain her position as favorite wife, Robyn still insists she needs to live polygamy. She still clings to plural marriage like it's her spiritual lifeline. How does that make sense? Let's unpack it, because understanding this contradiction requires understanding the doctrine that keeps women locked in these situations for generations. In fundamentalist Mormon polygamy, women are taught a specific narrative about suffering and reward. The more you endure on earth, the bigger your blessings in heaven. Jealousy tearing you apart inside? That's a test. Your husband spending 3 nights a week with a younger, prettier wife? That's your opportunity to prove devotion. The loneliness, the financial strain of sharing resources across multiple households, the constant comparison and competition, all of it counts toward your heavenly scorecard. You're not just tolerating a difficult lifestyle, you're earning your place in the celestial kingdom. This is the promise that keeps women participating in systems that make them miserable. They're told their suffering has purpose, that enduring the hard parts proves their worthiness. That giving up would mean forfeiting eternal blessings, not just for themselves, but potentially for their children. It's a powerful form of religious coercion, and it works precisely because it reframes misery as devotion and devotion as the path to salvation. So when Robyn says she believes in polygamy, despite never being surrounded by healthy polygamous relationships, despite her own obvious struggles with sharing Kody, she's reflecting this deeply embedded doctrine. In theory, she wants polygamy because she believes it's her ticket to heaven. In practice, living it causes immense pain and conflict, but she's been conditioned to view that pain as necessary suffering rather than a sign something's fundamentally broken. Kody actually called this out in one of their conversations. He asked Robyn directly, "Are we really just enduring in our relationship, going through the motions for some future payoff? Or do we actually have something special here?" Robyn claimed they have something special, but the question itself reveals how deeply this endurance mentality has shaped their entire approach to marriage and family. Now let's address the elephant wearing a Nordstrom rack outfit in the room. If Robyn truly believes in polygamy as deeply as she claims, if living plural marriage is genuinely essential to her spiritual salvation, then why on earth is she still with Kody Brown? Because here's the thing, every woman who's ever sat through a church service while questioning the doctrine knows when your stated beliefs don't match your actual behavior, something's not adding up. Kody left the church. He's not just taking a sabbatical or exploring other congregations. He walked away from the entire fundamentalist Mormon system that validates polygamy in the first place. In the eyes of that church, he's a failure, a cautionary tale. The man who had 4 wives and couldn't keep a single plural marriage intact. The church doesn't like Kody. They don't respect him. He represents everything that can go wrong when pride and ego overtake religious devotion. And Robyn? She's chosen to stay with this man the church rejected. If she genuinely believed polygamy was non-negotiable for her salvation, she had options, real options. Mykelti and Tony both pointed this out. Robyn could have returned to the church, found a faithful polygamous man, and continued living the principle she claims to hold sacred. In fundamentalist communities, single women willing to become plural wives get marriage proposals constantly. She could have had 10 offers in a single day. That's how desperate these men are to acquire new wives, to build their eternal families, to prove their commitment to the principle. But she didn't do that. She stayed with Kody. She chose the man who abandoned polygamy over returning to a community where she could actually live it. And that choice reveals something crucial about what Robyn actually values. This isn't about spiritual devotion. This isn't about earning her place in the celestial kingdom. Because if it were, she would have made the difficult choice to leave and find a man who could give her what she claims she needs. Instead, she's clinging to both the man and the fantasy. She wants Kody to magically become polygamous again so she doesn't have to choose between the relationship and the principle. She wants the validation of being a successful polygamist without the actual work of living in a functional plural marriage. She wants the status that comes with being the loyal wife who didn't abandon ship, but she also wants the spiritual credentials of being a woman living the principle. You can't have it both ways. Every woman who's ever tried to reconcile conflicting values knows this truth intimately. At some point, your choices reveal your priorities. And Robyn's choices reveal that staying with Kody, maintaining her current lifestyle, and preserving her position matter more than the polygamous principles she claims to hold dear. Let's dig into what Robyn was actually chasing when she joined the Brown family, because it wasn't just spiritual fulfillment and sister-wife bonding sessions. According to Mykelti's analysis, Robyn's something special with Kody isn't really about Kody at all. It's about what Kody could provide. Status, visibility, the chance to be queen bee of a successful, famous polygamous family. She wanted to prove to her friends, still scraping by in poverty within fundamentalist communities, that you could be the king and queen of polygamy. That was the dream. Not soulmate love, not spiritual partnership, a kingdom. Think about what that means. When Robyn tells the story of choosing Kody, she always emphasizes that she had other options. Other men proposed. She could have gone anywhere. And she's right. She could have. In those communities, a woman willing to become a plural wife is gold, but she chose the Browns specifically because that family could give her something the others couldn't: fame and fortune through their reality show. The chance to live polygamy publicly, visibly, as successful examples of how the principle could work. She wanted the wealth that came with being reality television stars. She wanted to show everyone back home that she'd made it. Meanwhile, Kody had his own completely different motivations. To him, Robyn was the trophy wife, the diesel jeans model. Young, beautiful, devoted, everything he thought a wife should be. She represented vindication of his belief that if he just found the right woman, polygamy would work perfectly. She was his evidence that the other wives were the problem, not him. She was the prize he'd been working toward all along. So you've got two people entering a marriage for entirely transactional reasons. She wanted status and financial security. He wanted validation and a gorgeous woman on his arm. Neither was primarily motivated by genuine partnership or spiritual compatibility. They were using each other to get what they wanted, and as long as both parties were getting their needs met, the arrangement functioned smoothly enough. But here's what happens when transactional relationships hit obstacles. The transaction falls apart. Robyn thought she was getting fame, success, and the throne of a polygamous empire. Instead, she got 3 sister wives leaving, a husband who abandoned the church, and the collapse of the entire family structure that made her special. Kody thought he was getting eternal devotion and proof of his irresistibility. Instead, he got a wife who still wants something he's unwilling to provide, and constant reminders that his family failed spectacularly in the public eye. Neither person is getting what they signed up for. The deal they made implicitly when Robyn joined the family has been voided by circumstances, and now they're both stuck wondering whether what remains is worth fighting for. Here's where Mykelti and Tony fundamentally disagree, and it's a disagreement that cuts straight to the heart of whether this marriage survives. Tony believes Kody would do almost anything to keep Robyn, that he'd even bring in another wife if Robyn truly demanded it, if she made it clear her happiness depended on living polygamy again. Tony sees a man willing to go to the ends of the earth for the woman he considers his soulmate, but Mykelti? She's not buying it, not for a second. Mykelti's theory is darker and frankly more convincing based on everything we've watched unfold. She believes that if Robyn ever gave Kody an actual ultimatum about polygamy, if she came to the table and said we're breaking up unless you bring in another wife, Kody would choose himself. He'd walk away, he'd be done, because Kody has already made his position crystal clear. He stated repeatedly, emphatically, that he's finished with polygamy. He doesn't want it. He won't do it. And for a man who values respect as obedience above everything else, Robyn demanding he violate his stated boundary would be the ultimate act of disrespect. Remember what Kody himself admitted. He doesn't value love the way he values respect. And respect, in his definition, means compliance. It means accepting his decisions without pushback. Robyn demanding polygamy after he's explicitly rejected it would be open defiance. It would be her saying his needs don't matter as much as hers. And Kody has demonstrated repeatedly throughout this family's history that he will discard relationships that don't center him. He'll rewrite the narrative, blame the other person for being difficult or unfaithful or disrespectful, and move forward without looking back. Tony makes the valid point that Kody seems desperate to keep Robyn happy, but Mykelti counters with Kody's own words. Dad has already said he values respect over love, and respect for him partially means obedience. If Robyn pushes too hard, demands something he's unwilling to give, that's not respect. That's rebellion. And Kody doesn't tolerate rebellion from his wives. He punishes it. He withdraws affection, redirects attention, ultimately severs the relationship entirely. The only thing potentially stopping Kody from leaving Robyn if she pushed too hard? He doesn't have another option lined up. Mykelti made this point brilliantly. The only way Kody would actually leave Robyn is if he had someone younger and better waiting in the wings. Some new Levi jeans model to replace the diesel jeans model. Without that safety net, he's unlikely to pull the trigger himself. But make no mistake, if Robyn makes polygamy a deal breaker, if she refuses to let this go, Kody won't be the one bending. He'll be the one walking away. So if Kody won't actually give Robyn polygamy, but also doesn't want to lose her, what's his strategy? Simple. He plays the maybe game. He occasionally dangles the possibility of bringing in new wives just enough to keep Robyn engaged, to keep her thinking it might happen someday, to prevent her from making any drastic decisions. It's manipulation, masquerading as consideration. He'll bring up the topic in conversation, entertain hypotheticals, keep the door cracked open just wide enough that Robyn can see a sliver of light and think her dream might still be achievable. This is classic Kody Brown tactics. Control through inconsistency. Keep everyone slightly off balance, never quite sure where they stand, always hoping the next conversation might be the one where things finally shift in their favor. It's exhausting, it's destabilizing, and it's remarkably effective at keeping someone locked in a relationship that isn't meeting their needs. But here's the really twisted part of this whole dynamic. Kody actually blamed Robyn for his failed relationships with the other wives. He told people he only stayed in those marriages because Robyn wouldn't stay with him, unless he remained a polygamist. He made her the reason he had to maintain relationships he claimed to find burdensome. He positioned himself as the martyr, sacrificing his own happiness to keep Robyn from leaving. And now that those relationships have ended, now that he's given up polygamy, he's using that sacrifice as leverage. He gave up what she wanted once. He kept those wives around for her. And look how that turned out. Does she really want to go down that road again? It's a masterclass in rewriting history to serve your current needs. Every woman who's watched someone twist past events to justify present behavior recognizes this move immediately. He takes something that was primarily his decision, frames it as a sacrifice he made for her, then uses that reframed narrative to prevent her from asking for anything similar in the future. Meanwhile, there's the financial manipulation happening simultaneously. Kody keeps Robyn comfortable. Very comfortable. He buys her expensive gifts. He provides a massive home. He ensures her lifestyle remains elevated and enviable. And that comfort becomes its own form of control. Because every time Robyn considers pushing harder on the polygamy issue, every time she thinks about drawing a line in the sand, she has to weigh that spiritual desire against the very real, very tangible benefits of her current situation. He's essentially buying her compliance, not with one large payment, but with a steady stream of material comfort that makes the idea of rocking the boat increasingly unappealing. It's harder to fight for your principles when fighting might cost you your beautiful home, your financial security, and your comfortable lifestyle. Let's talk about the cold, hard math that's really keeping Robyn in this marriage, because it has nothing to do with soulmates or spiritual callings, and everything to do with bank accounts and square footage. As of October 2025, Kody and Robyn are living in a $2.1 million home in Flagstaff. Not just any home, a 5,500 square foot main house plus a 2,000 square foot guest house. They're living the high life while Robyn's friends back in fundamentalist polygamous communities are struggling to feed their kids and splitting grocery budgets across multiple wives. Kody there. Here's the reality Robyn faces if she actually follows through on her stated beliefs and returns to polygamy. She'd have to go back to those communities. She'd have to find another polygamous man willing to take her as a plural wife, and there's absolutely no guarantee that man would be wealthy. In fact, the odds are heavily against it. Most men in these communities are stretched impossibly thin, trying to support multiple families on single incomes. The women scrape by, they coupon. They budget down to the penny. They figure out how to make one chicken feed 8 people across 3 households. Robyn knows this life intimately. She lived it before she married Kody. She watched her mother and her mother's sister wife navigate financial strain while sharing resources and competing for attention. She's seen up close what poverty polygamy looks like, and now she's supposed to voluntarily return to that after living in a multi-million-dollar home? After having access to endless retail therapy and expensive gifts and financial security most women in her former community can only dream about? Every woman who's ever had to choose between principle and practicality understands this calculation. In theory, your beliefs matter most. In practice, you've got kids to feed and bills to pay and a future to secure. And when your current situation provides comfort while your alternative offers hardship, it becomes remarkably easy to convince yourself that maybe your current path is actually fine. Maybe you don't need what you thought you needed. Maybe comfort is its own form of blessing. This is why Robyn won't leave Kody and return to polygamy, despite all her claims about spiritual necessity. Because going back means poverty. It means uncertainty. It means starting over at the bottom of the wife hierarchy in some other man's family, having to prove herself all over again, potentially competing with wives who've been there longer and have more established relationships with the husband. It means giving up everything she's gained for a principle that's never actually made her happy in practice. So she stays. She compromises. She bends to Kody's demands while occasionally pushing back just enough to feel like she hasn't completely surrendered her beliefs. And Kody knows exactly what he's doing by keeping her financially comfortable. Now let's talk about the rumor that's been circulating. The one that adds a completely different dimension to this entire situation. According to sources, Robyn has had serious thoughts about leaving Kody. Not just fleeting frustrations after an argument, but genuine contemplation of ending this marriage. And the reason she hasn't? She feels trapped. Trapped because of the kids. Trapped because she's not financially stable enough to go it alone. Trapped in a situation where leaving would cost her everything she's built, even though staying means surrendering the dreams that brought her into this family in the first place. If that's true, if Robyn's actually been weighing her exit options, it changes the entire dynamic we've been watching play out on screen. This isn't just about theological differences or Kody forcing her to accept monogamy. This is about a woman calculating whether she has the resources and support system to leave, and apparently concluding, at least so far, that she doesn't. That's not a marriage. That's a hostage situation with nice furniture. But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's been talk about a potential spin-off featuring just the ex-wives and possibly Robyn, if she chose to leave Kody. Imagine that lineup: Christine, Janelle, Mary, and Robyn, all comparing notes on their experiences with the same man, all sharing stories without Kody's narrative controlling the conversation. TLC could absolutely make that work. They could build an entire show around these women's perspectives, their healing journeys, their newfound independence, and they could do it without Kody Brown taking up oxygen in every scene. Is that what's really being negotiated behind closed doors? Is Robyn staying with Kody partially because she doesn't have a clear path forward professionally if she leaves? Because if Sister Wives ends and she's divorced, what does her income look like? How does she maintain her lifestyle? These are the questions every woman considering divorce asks herself, especially when she's been out of the workforce and dependent on her spouse's income. Mykelti made a prediction that feels increasingly accurate the longer we watch this unfold. She said Kody will never find another diamond because he's not a diamond himself. He's not a good man. He doesn't care about his women. He doesn't value love. And critically, if Robyn ever became truly disobedient, if she ever refused to bend to his will, he would discard her just like he discarded Christine, Janelle, and Mary. The only difference is he hasn't had a reason to yet. She's still compliant enough, still trapped enough, still calculating whether leaving is worth the cost. But two narcissists locked in a marriage where neither is getting what they want? That's not sustainable long term. That's a countdown clock ticking toward inevitable implosion. So where does this all end? Because make no mistake, this marriage is heading somewhere, and that somewhere doesn't look like happily ever after. Mykelti's assessment is blunt and probably accurate. These are two narcissists who will eventually turn on each other. When you've got two people who prioritize their own needs above everything else, who manipulate situations to maintain control, who rewrite history to serve their current narratives, the relationship has an expiration date. It's just a matter of what finally triggers the collapse. Here's the timeline that seems most likely. Robyn stays as long as the money flows and the kids need stability. Once those kids are grown, once they're out of the house and established in their own lives, her primary reason for staying evaporates. And once the Sister Wives gravy train finally runs out, once TLC decides the show has run its course and the paychecks stop arriving, Kody's ability to maintain her comfortable lifestyle disappears. That's when she'll reassess. That's when the calculation shifts from, can I afford to leave, to can I afford to stay? Because here's what Robyn wanted from the beginning: to be Queen Bee, to be the successful face of polygamy, to prove to everyone back in her fundamentalist community that she'd made it, that plural marriage could be glamorous and prosperous if you did it right. She wanted the kingdom. She got the king, but the kingdom crumbled. The other wives left. The family fractured. The dream died. And now she's stuck with a man who can't or won't give her what she originally signed up for. Kody, meanwhile, wanted the trophy wife who would validate his belief in his own irresistibility. He wanted proof that he could have a successful marriage if only he found the right woman. He wanted someone who would obey without question, who would prioritize his needs, who would never challenge his authority the way Christine and Janelle eventually did. He got some of that with Robyn. But he's also watching her cling to polygamy, watching her refuse to fully embrace the monogamous fairy tale he's trying to create, and realizing she's not the perfect, compliant partner he imagined either. Neither person is a diamond. Mykelti was right about that. Kody doesn't care about love. Robyn doesn't care about partnership. They care about what the other person can provide, and increasingly, neither can deliver. So we watch and wait for the inevitable moment when one of them decides the cost of staying exceeds the benefit, when the performance finally ends and the real collapse begins. And honestly, after everything this family has been through, watching Kody and Robyn's downfall might be the most satisfying chapter yet. Do you think Robyn will finally walk away once the cameras stop rolling? Or will Kody beat her to the exit when a younger option appears? Drop your predictions in the comments. Tap like, hit subscribe, keep those notifications on because trust me, a fresh video is already queued up. And something tells me the next round of Brown family drama will be even messier than the last.